Hello, my name is Bill Haley. This is my Haley2024, the movement, government reform ideas. This one's going to be on monetary structure, the monetary policy, and the structure of the monetary structure. So we're going to go into free enterprise money. We're going to have several currencies competing. So we're just going to get right into it. I do have a 3-minute video out there on this and a lot of other short ones. You can look at my webpage at Haley2024.org and you can but this one's going to go a little bit more in depth, 20 or 30 minutes here. So let's just keep on going. First, you have to understand the full CRA structure. I take all government power at the federal level, state level, and local level. We split into 30 sectors with distinct top-level elected representative leadership per sector. People who are in charge of education policy is not going to be the same people in charge of environmental policy. That's different from labor law, that's different from police law, that's different from military, and the commander-in-chiefs and the like. All 30 sectors are broken down. Look at that video, but here are the 30 seconds if you want to pause and look at the 30 sectors. I have 2 in the financial system, one dealing with banks, one dealing with not with banks. This one's going to deal with banks because this one's going to be with creating currency, and the banks can do that. Okay, let's keep on going. Within each sector and at every level of government, you're going to have a full CRA structure, all 30 sectors. Each sector will have 12 distinct, or roughly 12 distinct, competitive regulatory agencies. These are called CRAs, competitive regulatory agencies. These are full governmental units, so I might call them competitive governing agencies. They have executive, legislative, and judicial powers. They also send proportionally up to a representative body called the sector board, the CRA sector board. On the other side of the screen here, you're going to see the rating system. This is a representative level also, but under the representative level, you pick the rating system, the rating agency that matches your philosophy of how to rate and what you want to see. There's a lot of variety of how somebody wants to rate, what they want to see as an end game, what do they want, what do they desire, and how to get there. There's a lot of differences there. So you're going to have 12 different rating agencies. Plus it's a lot of power. We want to really separate that power into 12 different units where everybody can put their trust in one of these rating agencies. So a lot to get into on this. So in the money situation right now in America, we have a very high level of socialism. The fiat currency is socialism. It's government control. Even though they give it to the Federal Reserve, the president still nominates them. They still have a monopoly over the money. There are still laws saying that it's public tender. You're not allowed to do business without taking the US dollar. That's socialism. It really is. And we use it, and they're using it as a taxing mechanism too, because they're creating new money to fund the government. They have been for a long time, and it is causing a lot of havoc. So it's not the best system we currently have right now. It might be better than we've ever had in the past. It's not nearly as good as it can be with free enterprise money. Okay, it's sector 18 of the 30, so let's go back to here. Again, we have two in the financial sector, one being banks, one not being banks. So, sound money is far superior to government-created paper without inherent value. So basically, we're going to back up our money with inherent value, with inherent worth. We're going to put worth behind our money. Currency is a service that allows people to trade a universal good for a specific product. The invisible hand of the market allows the invisible hand to create a ledger of how much services you're giving into the to the world of services and how much you're getting back out. So Adam Smith's invisible hand is also, money is a good way of having the invisible hand regulate how much money how much services and product you're giving into the system, into the whole market, and how much product and services you're getting out of it. The invisible hand keeps that ledger, and money is the way that it does it. But we don't have really good money right now. Might be better than what we've had in the past. It's still not as good as it can be. It's still socialism. and socialism is never as good as free enterprise. Okay, let's keep on going. The free enterprise provides the best services. We talked about that. Okay, sound money is a certificate of ownership, or at least it should be, of items of real value such as land, stocks, bonds, commodities, precious metals. We're going to talk about loans. We're going to talk about a lot of things that can be put in as backing up money, as the worth behind the money. And the money is a certificate of ownership. Okay, Haley2024, the reform idea here, calls for about a dozen financial competitive regulatory agencies. We'll worry about how we got to the 12 before, but we just don't want too many, we don't want too little. So we put limitations, a 20% limitation on the top level, 5% limitation on the bottom level. Anyway, that's irrelevant right now. That regulates their member banks. So every bank has to be regulated by a competitive regulatory agency in the banking sector. So one bank down the street is regulated by a different governmental unit than another bank down the other side of the street. There's competition in that. It's so important to have competition in regulations. Right now we have a monopoly controlled by politicians. That's not nearly as good as competition. Okay, and then each CRA, so roughly a dozen, will issue their own currency. We'll talk about how it's done. I don't want to get ahead of myself because I have a lot of bullet points here. Every bank must become a member of one of roughly a dozen CRAs. See, I already got ahead of myself earlier. I'm just repeating myself now. Members vote on the CRA leadership. Very important that only the members of a CRA vote on that leadership of that CRA. Now, if a bank tries to give too much to regulate in such a way that the bank always comes out on top and the members of the people who deposit money in the banks don't have any protection, people don't want to go to that bank. On the other hand, if a bank goes to a regulatory agency that gives the consumer, the customer of the bank, all the protections and the bank doesn't have any protection, the bank can't make any money. The bank can't operate properly. They're going to lose money hand over fist. This is going to force a nice balance between the customer protection and the bank protection. Who's going to do that the best? Having 12 different models is really going to allow different competition, different experimentation to arise and see which one works the best. And the consumers, the people who want to use banks, are going to be the determining factor, looking at the rating system and the like. So there's a lot to this. Okay. The financial CRA only regulates its members. Very important to understand that. Every financial CRA creates its own currency by collecting a portfolio of assets from its member banks to back up its currency. So the banks have to start collecting assets, stocks, bonds, precious metals, and the like. Before I go on, let me just keep on going on because I address everything on the slides here. The value of a financial CRA currency is the value of the portfolio divided by the number of units of currency issued. You can only issue as much currency as you have assets in the bank, in your portfolio. You cannot issue $1 million worth of currency and only have $1,000 of assets. It has to match. Highly important. And we'll talk about how the whole system's going to force that anyway. Okay. A financial CRA with $100 billion of assets can only create 100 billion units of their currency. $367 billion of assets warrants 367 billion units. We just went over that. Just want to clarify that. Make sure there's no misunderstanding. A financial CRA sector board will acquire currency from all the financial CRAs as the base of the financial sector board's currency, the backed dollar. So what we're dealing with is we're going to the representative level. So all CRAs, all banking CRAs send representatives to the CRA level, to the representative level, the sector board level. and they're going to proportionally collect currency from every CRA. Then they're going to create an average. First of all, when they acquire that, they're going to have ownership over that. They're going to own that. And they're going to be able to issue paper and coin money from that. The CRAs at that level, they're going to do digital currency. The average at the representative level is going to do the paper and coin. And that's because they're getting it from all the different currencies proportionally. It's going to be an exact average. So let's talk about how that's going to affect everything. I got it on bullet points. And the name of that's going to be the back dollar. The average is the back dollar. The coin, the physical paper is going to be called the back dollar, the BD. If you want to change it to anything else, that's fine too. But that's the working name for it right now. The BD will be the currency of paper and coin, while all the other CRA currencies will be digital. Told you I'm jumping ahead of myself. The marketplace posts prices as BD. So when you go into the store, the grocery store, the mall, wherever, when you buy a car, when you do contracts, you're going to be posting it as the BD because that's going to be the average. That way everybody can understand what they're dealing with. The BD is the average of all currencies since the BD proportionally holds currency from all the CRAs. I already told you I'm going ahead of myself. The value of all portfolios change in value daily as the value of each asset in the portfolio adjusts in the trading markets. So if you hold Amazon stock or Exxon stock, those things go up and down. The price of gold goes up and down. Everything has a going price for the day. Things go up and down as it goes. So when you have 12 different currencies, you're going to start getting a little bit out of whack. So how do you deal with that? So we're going to, let's talk about it so I don't get ahead of myself again. Having a dozen currencies with different value creates a burden in the marketplace. We don't want to say this is going to cost $100 of currency A, $200 of currency B, $50 of currency C. It makes it very confusing. So, therefore, the number of units will have to adjust of the CRA. The number of units will have to adjust to keep all the currencies and values synced in value. So, currency A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, all 12 of them are going to have to sync in value. They're going to have to sync to the BD. They don't do it by having an exchange rate. They do it by adjusting the number of units of currency they have outstanding. Again, you can only have as many units outstanding as you do as the value of your portfolio. So, let's continue on. All currency will sync in value by constant adjustments to the BD. So you always adjust it. We're talking constant adjustments. We're talking about on a daily basis. Meaning adjusting the number of units of currency so the value of all currencies units match. Now, because it's digital, it'd be very easily. If I have currency in currency A, $100 in there, and the portfolio goes down a little bit, they might take it down to $99. If it goes up a little bit, it might take it up to $101. Yes, it does fluctuate. If you want to have the BD, there would be accounts of BD, so it stays exactly the same. It stays with the average. It depends on what you want. So let's keep on going. Having all currencies synced in value allows easier exchange with different currencies. So currency A is always going to match currency B and C and D. All the currencies are going to match. All banks and all merchants take any of the CRA currencies. Because all the controls we have on this, because all currencies are backed up by law, by the CRA representatives, by the whole system, it's just going to have, everyone's going to be backed up. There's ways to make sure the currencies are honest and we're going to get over to that in a second. Okay, so the current, all banks, all merchants, all stores will take all of them, and I don't even think we need a law saying it, but there's probably going to be a law current like we do for the U.S. dollar that is public tender. But I don't even think we need that, but it'd be easy enough here. Okay. If a portfolio loses 1% of value compared to the average, then those holding that digital currency lose roughly 1% of their units of currency. If a portfolio valued at $100 billion has 100 billion units, if a person holds 100 units, they own 1 billionth of the portfolio. So what I'm trying to say here is you own always a percentage of the portfolio. Highly important to understand that you own a percentage of that portfolio. Everything in that portfolio. We'll talk about how we can go get product out of that, assets out of that portfolio. Then, if a person holds 100 units, they own 1 billionth of the portfolio. If the assets in the portfolio increase in value to $101 billion, or 101 BD, that's the unit of currency, the person still owns 1 billionth of the portfolio. So your ownership did not change. It's exactly 1 billionth. But now you get 101 units where you did have 100 units. Or if it drops in value, then you drop $1. Again, if you want super steady, there will be accounts that keep it super steady. In order to keep the price of the currency synced with the BD, this portfolio can now offer 101 billion units. The person holding 100 units yesterday now holds 101 units. There would be financial instruments that will stabilize the currency by taking on all or most of the risk. There'll be a lot of financial instruments that will really stabilize the currency. An example of a portfolio: they own gold, stocks, lands, bonds, mortgages, corn, all the commodities, oil. They will have road stocks because we're going to a private sector roads. Future tax revenue, go into my debt and look how we're going to do taxes and future taxes and how that could be built into the monetary policy. Education share loans, we're going to a free enterprise education system. We're going to go to share loans if people want those. Business loans, personal loans, nature parks, anything that has stocks, wheat, foreign currencies. So I talk about the Argentina peso, but any foreign currency can be put into this. Hopefully they're going to go to this model too. But for right now, different countries' currency has value because we buy and sell product with them. And that's going to help trade with foreign countries by having a certain amount of foreign currency within each CRA portfolio. It's going to assist in transactions with foreign countries. The charity economy is going to have some value in there. That's highly important. Prison corporations, hospitals, thousands of other items. At the end of the day, all banks will have currencies with all the other currencies. So within each portfolio, portfolio currency A will have a little bit of currency from B, C, D, E, F, G, A, all the other currencies. That's going to allow a little bit of ease to settle up at the end of the day. Financial CRAs transfers assets to each other to match the differentials. So let's say at the end of the day, people transfer assets, money from currency A into banks that hold currency B. And then B transfers money to C and the whole 9 yards. Every day, as people do transactions, they're going to do it across different currencies. Well, that's going to be obvious, but they're going to have to even up at the end of the day. So the financial CRAs, the portfolios, will just transfer assets from one currency portfolio to the other. all 12 will get together and say, hey, let's transfer money. That's why you're going to hold it a little bit. That's why there's going to be stocks and gold, things that have a very good market value that's going to be easily able to transfer digitally. We don't have to have a truck full of gold to move from one bank to the other bank. That's silly. Stocks, we can just transfer digitally the stock ownership from one to the other. That's going to be done easily. There's a lot of things we can do, just digital transfer. Eventually, somebody might want to go get the actual property, the gold, and switch it to the bank. That's fine too, from one storeroom to another storeroom. We got armored trucks that can do that. Okay. If many people holding currency X buy $1 billion of stuff from people that deposit the money from currency Y bank, then $1 billion of assets needs to transfer from portfolio X to portfolio Y. So if a whole bunch of people who own currency X buy stuff from currency Y, then Y is the legitimate owner of that currency, which means part of that portfolio, which means they can go get stuff from currency X portfolio, $1 billion worth. That's what I'm talking about at the end of the day. They just transfer money for the differentials. People controlling portfolio Y decide what assets they want. So, I haven't talked about this yet, but anybody who has currency Y, let's say, they can go to currency Y's portfolio and they get to pick what they want to get out of there. That matches the value. We're going to go over that in a second. Anything CRAs accept as real value can be an asset in their portfolios. Gold, stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, loans, among other items have real value. Many assets portfolio models will emerge. There's going to be a lot of different varieties. There's probably going to be one that just wants to stay with strict gold. That's fine too. Other ones will venture out into the other stuff. The stocks, the real estate, the commodities, the loans. Loans are going to be big on this. The loans have real value. That's why a bank gives a $15,000 for a car loan, because that loan, they know they're going to collect like $16,000 back or $17,000 back and have that $1,000 or $2,000 differential as payment for the use of money over time. That's what you're selling, is the use of money over time. Many asset portfolios will emerge. In the transition, the Federal Reserve will split and become one CRA and separately and independently the Financial Sector Board, CRA Sector Board. So if you don't remember, the Sector Board is a representative body. A CRA is one of the 12 CRAs, full governmental units. The Federal Reserve, because it has all the expertise, it has all the knowledge right now, it has so many of the people who really knows what they're doing. They're going to separately, they're going to split up the responsibilities. They have totally different responsibilities. One's going to be at the Financial Sector Board, the representative body, and one's going to be independently the CRA. Then through the transition, all the CRAs are going to start making up the Financial Sector Board, the representative body. So, at the beginning, the Federal Reserve will be the representative body, but quickly as the banks develop the CRAs, they're going to send representatives and be in charge as a representative body. But again, at the sector board level, it's more organizational purposes. Not a lot of controls over how the banks do their business. CRAs will have that control. There's not a lot of negative externalities that come about that cannot be handled by the free enterprise system, the rating system, and the whole 9 yards. Maybe a little bit of rating floors will come about, but the representatives, mostly it's organizational, not a lot of power. But they're going to be creating the paper dollar, the physical money. Current U.S. paper and coin need to be turned into the CRA Fed, which means at the CRA level, not the sector board level, but the CRA level. They're going to own all the dollars. We need to find out how many dollars are out there. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, other than saying everybody has to turn it in. And you can have anonymous ones too. If you don't want to show who owns how many dollars you own. There's anonymous ways to do it. Within 1 month. That way, after that, any outstanding money, US dollar, is going to be worthless. We'll give people plenty of time to understand that. And if it's digital in your bank, the banks are going to take care of it for you. If you just have money into an account with your credit union or your bank, that's going to be taken care of for you. But if you have physical dollars, you're going to have to turn it in and get your digital currency or the BD in exchange. There will be a system for that. But the Fed, the CRA part, the CRA level, Fed will assess the total outstanding units. A portfolio of assets from the government, from the Federal Reserve, from Federal Reserve gold, federal land, among other government assets, will bring worth to the current US dollars. So how we're going to give worth to it? We have a lot of assets. If debt is part of it, then debt is part of it. But that debt has real assets. That's a real asset because debt is a loan. People are in debt to the federal government, and they have to give money to the federal government, and that's real worth. Okay. Repayments of loans will transfer to BDs or the bank's currency. So they get to pick whether it's the BD, and maybe the current loans have to be the BD. CRAs, unless both parties agree that it goes to the bank's portfolios, the CRA portfolio's currency, which would be a little bit different, and there's a lot of models that can be tried. All portfolios must completely list their assets on a spreadsheet on their website. So this is very important. All the assets have to be listed in an Excel program or whatever, a good, nice spreadsheet that's very usable, very user-friendly. How many ounces of gold do you have? How many PepsiCo stocks do you have? How many Exxon stocks do you have? How many bonds do you have? Municipal bonds. How many whatever do you have? How many assets do you have? They have to list every one completely, the price for it, the total price, and it has to match. So if you end up with $19 billion, that's how much currency you're allowed to do. So you have to do it. The total value must match the sum of all assets. So that's just easy. Once you list all your assets, how much each asset's worth, you get a total. And the number of units issued, the number of units of currency issued must match the entire value measured by the BD. Again, always adjusting back to the BD. Okay, all assets must be for sale at the listed price and value. So, if you have gold in your asset and it's listed as $1,500 per ounce, and you have $1,500 worth of the currency for that bank, you're allowed to go in there and pick up that ounce of gold. No questions asked. It's a must. It's because the person with that currency owns it. They own anything in that currency of the equal value. So if they have $100, they can get about 5 or 7 or so percent of an ounce of gold. Okay. Now, what's going to keep the prices honest? Well, first of all, if the portfolio lists something low in value, people will just buy that up real quick and sell it at the higher price. That's a simple solution. If they list it higher, let's say they list an ounce of gold at $2,000 an ounce versus, what is it, 13 or 14 now, somewhere around there, 100. They can't do that. If it's on the trading market, they have to list it as the going price. Anything on a normal trading market, they have to do that. If it's not on the normal trading market, there's arbitrage opportunities. I have a full page on my website talking about 5 or 6 different ways you can do arbitrage opportunity. But if a bank consistently overprices something and then has to sell it off later at a lower price, you're going to be penalized for that. So they're not going to be wanting to do that. Anybody can say you're overpricing and then sell short that. There's a lot of mechanisms to do it. And I'm not going to go into it on this video, but there's a lot of ways to make a portfolio prices honest. Arbitrage opportunities will keep every price honest relating to the value of their assets. Let's continue on. Almost done here. The freedom of about a dozen CRAs in a dozen full systems to experiment will yield great results. That's just at the end of all my videos, really. Competition works better and gets better results than socialism. We currently have socialism in money. Competition. So we're going to have competing money. Let's go to this one. Okay, we're going to have competing money with one standard, that those competing money has to always adjust their units of currency to keep that one value the same as all the others, to the average. You can use whatever currency you want. There'll be plenty of accounts with the average, so that never changes. So if you want $1,500 in your bank and you don't want that to change in value at all, fine, you can have it as a BD, as an average, and you can do that. There'll be a lot of financial instruments that people love to have to take extra risk and accept the downside on that as well. Those will stabilize the rest of the currency. So for the people who want a very stabilized currency, they can have that. So there's a lot of financial instruments that's going to make this work. Then hopefully on the foreign markets, they'll go to this system, or we'll have some of their currencies into the portfolio. There's ways to do that. I have some stuff listed on my website. I have a little bit of write-up on that. Anyway, 31 minutes on this, so keep on looking around my website and see what other ideas I have. Thanks a lot.